The first time it happened, I thought I was losing my mind. I stood in the doorway of Jeanine's bedroom at 3 in the morning, staring at the impossible sight before me. My 7-year-old daughter was fast asleep, her small chest rising and falling with peaceful breaths. Curled around her like a scaly blanket was Labaroviski, our recently adopted baby dragon, his iridescent scales shimmering in the soft glow of the nightlight. "Honey, he's done it again," I whispered to my wife Sarah, who appeared behind me rubbing sleep from her eyes. This was the 4th night in a row. Every evening we carefully placed Labaroviski in his specially constructed habitat in the living room, a temperature-controlled enclosure that had cost us 3 months' salary. Every morning we found him wrapped around Jeanine like a protective serpent. Sarah sighed. "Maybe we should just let him stay with her?" "You know what the Interspecies Adoption Agency said. Dragons need proper environmental controls. If his body temperature drops too low..." I know. She squeezed my shoulder. "But look at them. Have you ever seen her sleep so peacefully?" She had a point. Jeanine had always been a restless sleeper, plagued by nightmares ever since the Selthon attacks on the outer colonies. We'd moved to Earth Central specifically to give her a safer, calmer life, yet the trauma lingered. The next morning I decided to investigate. While Jeanine was at school, I reviewed the security footage. What I saw made my blood run cold. At exactly 2:47 a.m., Jeanine had begun thrashing in her sleep, small whimpers escaping her lips. Within seconds, I heard a sound I'd never heard before, a high-pitched keening from the living room. Labaroviski's enclosure shook violently. Then, impossibly, the locked door swung open. The baby dragon, no larger than a house cat, had somehow manipulated the electromagnetic lock. He flew down the hallway with desperate urgency, his wings barely developed enough for flight. When he reached Jeanine's room, he didn't hesitate. He crawled onto her bed, wrapped himself around her trembling form and began to hum, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to emanate from his entire body. Jeanine's thrashing stopped immediately. Her breathing steadied. A smile crossed her sleeping face. I sat back in my chair, stunned. This wasn't just a baby dragon seeking warmth or companionship. This was something else entirely. I called Dr. Yavuz, the xenobiologist who had processed our adoption paperwork. When I explained what I'd discovered, there was a long pause on the other end. "Mr. Chen," she said carefully, "I need you to bring Labaroviski in for additional testing immediately." "What's wrong? Is Jeanine in danger?" No, quite the opposite. "But I need to confirm something." 3 hours later, Sarah and I sat in Dr. Yavuz's office while Labaroviski underwent scans in the adjacent lab. Through the observation window, I could see him perched calmly on the examination table, his golden eyes watching the technicians with unusual intelligence. Dr. Yavuz entered, carrying a data pad with trembling hands. "I don't know how to tell you this, but Labaroviski isn't just a baby dragon. He's a draconian empath." "A what?" Sarah asked. "It's extraordinarily rare. Perhaps 1 in 10 million dragons are born with the ability. They can sense emotional distress across distances and have an instinctive drive to alleviate it. But here's what makes this truly remarkable." She pulled up a holographic display showing complex neural pathways. Draconian empaths don't just sense emotions. They can absorb traumatic memories and process them, essentially digesting psychological wounds the way a normal organism digests food. I felt Sarah's hand find mine. "You're saying he's been eating Jeanine's nightmares?" "In a manner of speaking, yes. Every night when Jeanine experiences trauma-related distress, Labaroviski senses it and responds. That humming you heard? That's a form of psychic resonance. He's literally taking her pain into himself and neutralizing it. But doesn't that hurt him?" I asked, alarmed. Dr. Yavuz smiled. "That's the beautiful part. For a draconian empath, processing emotional trauma actually nourishes them. It's how they evolved to survive. In ancient dragon societies, they served as healers and counselors. They're perfectly adapted for this." Sarah was crying now, but they were tears of relief. "So she's getting better? Really better?" "If the pattern continues, Jeanine should be completely free of her trauma-related symptoms within a few months. And Labaroviski," Dr. Yavuz gestured toward the lab where the baby dragon was now playfully batting at a technician's stylus. "He'll grow stronger and healthier than any dragon raised in isolation. It's a perfect symbiosis." That evening we made modifications to our home. Labaroviski's expensive enclosure was dismantled. In its place, we added a small heated perch in Jeanine's room right next to her bed. When we tucked Jeanine in that night, she looked up at us with clearer eyes than I'd seen in months. "Mom, Dad, can Labby stay with me, please?" Sarah and I exchanged glances. "Actually, sweetie," I said, "we were hoping you'd be okay with that." Jeanine's face lit up with pure joy. She wrapped her arms around Labaroviski, who chirped happily and nuzzled her cheek with his snout. As Sarah and I walked back to our bedroom, I realized something profound. Humanity had reached the stars, conquered impossible distances, and formed alliances with dozens of alien species. We'd survived wars and disasters that should have ended us. But sometimes the most powerful thing in the universe isn't technology or weapons or even courage. Sometimes it's simply the ability to recognize when two broken souls can heal each other. Through Jeanine's open door, I heard Labaroviski's humming begin, that deep, peaceful sound that meant my daughter would sleep without nightmares tonight. And every night after,